state of Israel. Students
The NPR host just said critics call Israel stealing the Palestinian flag
but one thing is missing:
a repression of free speech.
Police warned organizers not to bring it.
You have the Palestinian flag, we're gonna come and take it, and we'll have arresting who want to protect our students, but they're forbidding us from holding the flag.
Aline Nasra,
which is an attack on free speech.
She's a Palestinian citizen of
it's not
Israel.
just critics say that, it's because it is an attack on free speech. In order to accurately address it, you have to identify stealing people's
in white, green,
flags
red, and black of the Palestinian flag.
as
She
an
says
attack
the
on free
restrictions
speech.
go beyond the flag.
They try to tell us that our lives matter less, that our nationality matters less, that Palestine doesn't exist and Palestinians don't exist. And I am here to say
So Jerry Seinfeld said,
Across the street, counter-demonstrators, members of a right-wing nationalist group, wave Israeli flags. Organizer Shai Rosengarten screams while pointing at the Palestinians. You all should kiss the Israeli flag. Rosengarten says for him, the Palestinian flag is not a symbol of national identity, but of hostility toward the Jewish state.
Every time they are waving this flag, they are calling for intifada. They are calling for
poor little snowflake.
revolts against the states of Israel. So this is an enemy flag.
The idea that the Palestinian flag itself constitutes incitement has become increasingly accepted under Israel's far-right
Seems
national
like you were
security
using your
minister,
flag
Itamar
to
Ben-Gvir.
do
On his
incitement by
political
telling people they have to
party's
kiss
YouTube
it.
page, he posts this video praising police
Flags.
for arresting an Arab citizen accused of painting a Palestinian flag on a police station.
Critics
There is no
call
one
it
who will
repression
incite
of free
against the
speech.
state and be allowed to get away with it. Those days are over, he says.
Not allowed to criticize the
Those
state.
who incite will be arrested. Perhaps the most unusual case involved Alex Sinclair, a religious Jewish educator who wears a kippah, or Jewish skull cap. It's embroidered with both the Israeli and Palestinian flags. Earlier this year, an Israeli reported him to the police. Officers detained him and took him to the station. Hours later, he was released, but his kippah had been permanently altered.
Policeman who was in charge went back into the police station, cut out the Palestinian flag from the kippah, and then gave it back to me as sort of, a kind of mutilated kippah.
Rights groups say cases like Sinclair's reflect political pressure rather than the law.
Oh,
Karen
rights groups.
Saar of the Association
And
for
humans.
Civil Rights in Israel says there is no legal ban on the flag, but police insist they are just preserving the public order.
We are seeing that the police is almost oblivion for freedom of speech and freedom of identity and freedom
Sounds
of
like you don't have
expression
that.
and freedom of protest.
Israeli police did
You
not
don't have
respond
those
to an
things.
NPR request for comment and said they could not discuss the Sinclair case because it's still under investigation. But for Aline Nasra, the organizer of the Nakba Day rally, police restrictions are unlikely to make the symbol disappear.
Maybe they're forbidding us to have the flag, but we're gonna have a way to have the flag in the sky at some point.
We will not let Israel erase our land or our identity, she says. For NPR News, I'm Itai Stern in Tel Aviv.
But you'll try to help them erase it by saying critics say it's an attack on free speech instead of just recognizing that it's an
What
attack
we
on
eat
free
has
speech.
the power to extend the length and quality of our lives.
Okay, great.
Decades of research backs the statement for humans.
Maybe I'll
Now,
have
the
a
same claims can be made
Hello,
about some
hero.
butterflies. Many species live only a few weeks total. Heliconius butterflies can live for months, up to 25 times as long as other related butterflies. New research shows that their diet plays a huge role. Jessica Foley is a postdoc researcher at Tufts University, formerly with the University of Bristol, and she joins me now to explain. Welcome to All Things Considered.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us about this butterfly. Why is it living so long?
That's exactly the question I had when I started this 6 years ago now. So a lot of people have known, at least within the Heliconius community and also in the sort of broader insect longevity community, that these
is
butterflies
Moscow
can
on
live for
fire?
up to 6 months, some
Have you
people
seen
say.
Moscow
And most people would kind
on
of put it down
fire?
to the pollen. because pollen contains lipids, it contains amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein, whereas most butterflies, including Heliconius' close relatives, just feed on nectar, which is basically just sugar water. It's pretty much just pure carbs. So it's kind of this intuitive explanation, right? They're eating something that's more nutritious that helps them to live for longer. And so we did some further experiments and basically found, but even without the pollen, they're still living for longer. So they've evolved some kind of other pro-longevity mechanisms that are helping them to live for longer, even without this nutritional advantage.
And when you say that they're able to lay eggs for most of their lives, you're basically saying that they can stay vigorous until the very end of their lives, is that right?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, so we looked at a couple of things. So butterflies with the pollen are able to lay eggs up until the end of their lives. But we also wanted to know about other metrics of aging. You know, a lot of insects show some kind of a muscular decline with age. Humans also show
Right
this. So we came up with a kind of butterfly strength test. And we found that in Heliconius' shorter-lived close relatives, they do seem to show a decline in grip strength with age. So on average, at the end of their lives, they're pulling 25% less than they were at the beginning. But we didn't find it in Heliconius. They don't seem to show any sign of weakening with age.
Yeah. Can I ask you what a grip strength test for a butterfly looks like? What is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, good question. You know, how can you tell how much a butterfly can bench? We basically just put a small wooden perch onto a like wooden base and then put the entire contraption on a lab balance. And you hold a butterfly by the wings and gently lower it until its legs grasp the perch. They kind of do that naturally. It seems like a little bit like a branch to them. And then once the butterfly's holding on, you gently tug it off. And as the butterfly tugs, the reading on the balance will drop negative. And eventually it'll let go. Butterflies, as yet incapable of lifting the whole weight of the contraption. We called it the pollinator, by the way. That was kind of
clever. So I know that you are really into butterflies and I am very into insects as well, but why would this be an important discovery for someone else that might not be so into insects?
Even with organisms as distantly related to humans as butterflies, a lot of the mechanisms of aging at the molecular level are pretty highly conserved. So if you think about it, you know, all organisms have DNA, and one of the potential explanations for why we age is that as we age, you know, we accumulate DNA damage. And so some of the really interesting stuff coming out of the comparative biology of aging shows evidence for improved DNA repair mechanisms in long-lived species, so things like the native mole rat or the bowhead whale. And again, we haven't yet identified what these pro-longevity mechanisms are in Heliconius, and they might be something completely irrelevant for us, but they might tell us something interesting about the process of aging more generally. They could be helpful for learning about healthy aging in our society.
We've been speaking with Jessica Foley from Tufts University, formerly with the University of Bristol. Jessica, thank you.
Skate park.
Great, thank you so much for having me.
NPR national political correspondent Dawn Gagné has spent a career reporting on politics and at times witnessing history. That was the case this week when he attended the opening of the Obama Presidential Center in Chicago.
Oh yeah, that seemed awesome.
About this center. Let it be an epicenter of innovation.
This week's ceremony was different from typical presidential library openings. While former presidents Bill Clinton and George W. Bush were in attendance, they didn't give speeches. Obama did.
And yet, more than anything, I hope this center will serve as an affirmation of just how special, how precious our democracy truly is.
Former First Lady Michelle Obama
It'd be special if we still had it.
Failing to see the humanity in all people puts us all on a slippery slope that flies in the very face of our faith and of the founding promise of this democracy.
And your faith was a
that
trap.
all of us are created equal.
Your faith didn't protect you from Antichrist Trumpism. So Christianity just needs to be replaced.
That was the Roots. This was the third presidential center or library event that Dawn Gagné reported on in his decades at NPR. He was present for the opening of President Clinton and George W. Bush's libraries as well. So for this week's reporter's book, I wanted to get a sense from Dawn about what he had learned covering these over the years. I started by asking him how far back this tradition of presidential libraries goes.
The first presidential library was FDR's at Hyde Park, his family home, and it was not like one of these big library complexes that we see now. It's just kind of nestled in the Hudson Valley up there. Now, of course, they've become these places that are libraries. They house the archives from a presidency, and there's always a research facility attached, and then a museum that tells the story of a person's time in the White House. I will tell you that the Obama Library breaks with that tradition because the Obama presidency took place fully in the digital age. They basically decided, look, all of the archives are available digitally, or they're in the process of being digitized. So we don't need to have this be an official presidential library. That's why this one is called a presidential center.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So there's the Obama Presidential Center, there's presidential. Is the through line here that they are about punishing a particular president's legacy?
They certainly do that. It's not that they don't take on difficult topics, right? If you go through
call Obama
any
the deporter
presidential
in chief.
library, you
They refer to
generally
the fact that
see
he
the
called him the
passage
deporter in
where
chief.
the president struggled or had trouble with a particular issue.
Even though he apparently only deported people from
Gerald
the
R.
border.
Ford Presidential Library in Grand Rapids, Michigan, for
Not
example,
the kidnapping stuff that
deals
Trump
with
does.
the very messy pullout from Vietnam that took place under his presidency. So those things are in there, but mostly it's a journey through time, and you see it all through their perspective, and you see why they made the decisions they made.
I want to take us all back to 2013 when you covered the opening of the George W. Bush Presidential Library in Dallas. I'm wondering what you did in the lead up to that reporting trip.
Did a lot of homework anticipating that all of the former presidents would speak. That was the tradition. If a former president showed up, they would say some words about this other member of this ex-president's club. Knowing they were all going to speak, a lot of my attention beforehand was on Jimmy Carter, because probably more than any of the others, Carter had been a very, very, very strong critic of the George W. Bush presidency, specifically the foreign policy. Carter was just a very tough critic of that White House. So what's he going to say? What is he going to do when he stands up on that stage?
President Jimmy Carter.
Thanks, Jimmy Carter. One of the best presidents.
Us because it's Jimmy Carter, and I guess
in office, when he left office per year, 2 million.
Carter said that was one of the most. Also, because of what we wondered what he might say.